Hey, Ronen, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. So let me give you a quick introduction, and then I will hand it over to you. So Ronen Lazar serves as the co-founder and CEO of Inturn. Prior to Inturn, he co-founded startups to innovate in nonprofit entertainment and web directory industries. He's passionate about the intricacies of off-price, the importance of a digital supply chain, and the future of retail. All important to us here too. Intern is the only enterprise software solution that empowers brands to efficiently sell slow-moving and excess inventory across industries by streamlining workflows and providing a system of record. Intern's platform reduces inefficiencies and improves product margins. Today, he'll share his vision about the digital future of retail supply chains with us. Thanks, Ronen. You have the floor. And I can see your screen.
Awesome. Well, you see my
Yeah.
screen? Awesome. Great. Well, thanks so much. I hope everyone's well. Here to talk about excess inventory. This is not a topic that many people like to talk about. Obviously, in this climate with all the volatility and uncertainty, it's become a topic that's front and center. So just a little bit of background. Each year, there's about $170 billion of slow-moving and excess inventory that needs to be sold across all consumer categories. And what's interesting is despite all the widespread investment in technology, this part of the inventory lifecycle was always really considered an afterthought and was managed using Excel spreadsheets. The result of all this was a manual and error-prone process that led companies to have very poor visibility and be reactive to their underperforming inventory. The takeaway there was they were leaving money on the table and ultimately creating a lot of waste. In today's environment, with all the extreme, inventory volatility, and it's, unfortunately here to stay for the foreseeable future, this has become, a real challenge. In fashion, we saw stores close, and a lot of brands had department stores cancel orders. Ultimately, they saw sales down, 70%, resulting in massive supply with little demand. In CPG, where it's fast moving, consumers initially were hoarding product. I think we all saw reports on that and spending dramatically more money on things that are sort of shelf stable, but they've since reduced purchases, and the real challenge is the demand signals reflect that of an order, right? So when we go into a store, that order actually goes all the way up the supply chain, and that's really the data that they can rely on. And so when you have this increased demand, which we saw in March, and then decrease in demand, in April, and it may spiked back up a little bit, the signals start to become really distorted, and companies, even though they're fast moving and quite agile and can react pretty quickly, they really don't know what to have, where, when, and for who. And this is called the bullwhip effect. And just to kind of like frame it, one of our clients, one of the top CPG companies globally, commented, and I'll quote them. They said, "We generate slow-moving and obsolete goods 10 times faster than we can liquidate it. We're drowning. We don't have root cause analysis, and we can't look upstream." I mean, this is a very difficult commentary on the environment that we're in today. And really, no matter what size of company, whether it's a large CPG that could be multi-billion-dollar company or smaller companies, optimizing working capital has become absolutely critical. And compounding that, with everyone working remotely, the need for digital readiness has never been, so pronounced. Off-price is one of these markets that, has really not innovated. On the brand side, it's, as I said before, is an afterthought. On the off-price retailer side, a lot of the off-price retailers tend to operate still on pen and paper, and kind of in, manual ways. So, we started this company close to 7 years ago. We're the only enterprise solution for inventory disposition, and I've come to realize Intern was actually built for this moment. We've conducted resiliency testing over the years. Most recent one was, towards the end of last year, that actually prepared for, pandemic environment. But that was more, about us being able to operate remotely and to make sure we had all the necessary business continuity plans in place and make sure our customers could operate through this. But actually, just looking at what's happening in the market with all the volatility, sometimes, innovation is driven out of necessity. And I think this is, one of these moments. Just as a matter of background, we started in the fashion industry, but have since expanded across all consumer categories. The solution really sits at the intersection of three hot button topics for the Fortune 1000. The first being inventory optimization, the second being digital supply chain, and the third being sustainability. I think what's really unique and interesting is that sustainability before COVID-19 hit was front and center for a lot of these companies. Of course, everyone had their focus shifted, but they're now starting to pick back up on, how are we solving for what are our original plans, and in some cases, very steep commitments around sustainability. How do we solve for that, not just externally, but also just looking at our inventory and, how we can ensure that we can manage it effectively and monetize it as opposed to having to wait to destroy it. And so, we work with typically large enterprise companies. At some point we'll get, more into the long tail, but, trusted by some of these world's largest brands. Many are not listed here due to confidentiality. That's the other part of this, of this business. A lot of people, want to operate sort of under the radar. We've managed to build a brain trust to be the serve to solve this enormous challenge. You can see on the bottom of the slide here, B Capital, backed by the Boston Consulting Group, and other folks who have both built brands and off-price retailers. This has really allowed us, to get to market in the right way, and actually build a solution, that really works regardless of the fact that companies, not just, operate inconsistently company to company, but actually within organizations themselves and within teams. Sometimes the way that they look to inventory, the way that they go to market, what information they share, tends to be quite inconsistent. And so part of what we do here is to kind of reestablish, the right way to do this, the right way to look at, all that data, what data to offer, the cadence in going to market, and so on and so forth. And so the platform really consists of a series of modules that extends the full product lifecycle. We start where ERP systems stop effectively. And it starts with, aggregating all the relevant data and mastering that data. But then from there, real-time inventory management is critical. Formerly they would operate off of Excel spreadsheets, which is a snapshot of data that represents a moment in time. So, the eye on, real understanding, is absolutely critical of precisely what is available, considering that sometimes the goods are also being sold through other channels as well. From there, we've introduced market allocation. So a lot of companies have started looking at the global nature of their business as opposed to operating in these, slim geographic silos. Assortment curation. So historically, they would show everything to everyone, or subjectively decide, what to show to who without really leveraging any data or prior behavior. Pricing, the pricing, price is always discounted. So, being able to just, set the right price, again, based on historicals, based on understanding of what the customer is open to buy is, and then analyzing margin at the same time. It's very important throughout the process. And ultimately, order entry, this is always one that, strikes me as, interesting. Historically, all this was done manually, but you can imagine looking through a, Excel spreadsheet of 30,000 rows, and then ultimately you end up, in with a handshake with your counterparty. And then, folks in the customer service team would have to go line by line and key in SKU by SKU, style by style, and in fashion, especially where there's multiple sizes per style, precisely what it is, what SKU, what sizes, what quantity of those sizes, and then the discount associated with it. You can imagine how difficult this is. On top of this, we built a go-to-market module. And this is unlike, I would say, probably any other industry, that I've seen, in a sense that it's very much focused on, engagement with people who you've built a relationship with, over time. And the engagement is typically done in private, just because of, channel control and brand protection purposes. So we've built a module to sit on top of this workflow solution, so that companies can present inventory to their counterparty that are pre-approved. So it's not an open marketplace, and ultimately negotiate a deal with them. All of this was done, manually, historically, and we brought this solution to market. And our logic is that by institutionalizing process and knowledge, by streamlining these workflows, and by enabling data-driven decision making, the platform helps brands and retailers improve margins. That's one win. Gain efficiencies. That's win two. and intelligence would be the third. But ultimately they're recovering cash faster while they're also protecting their channel. And we get the question a lot of like, where does this actually sit, within my ecosystem, within my environment? It actually sits right on top of the ERP system. That's essentially, as said before, where the life cycle currently ends is with, flagging something as slow moving or obsolete, or with some sort of markdown optimization solution. We extend that life cycle and then loop right back into the ERP system, so that, for purposes of cross-referencing purchase orders and invoices, as well as fulfillment, we don't handle that. Customer handles that. We're able to onboard, companies in as little as 8 to 12 weeks. And, at the outset, we'll do a workshop. A lot of companies don't themselves know what the status quo is and what all the moving parts represent. And so we'll do that to actually, draw a baseline and start to point, to areas of improvement. One other massive call out for us, we recently announced a strategic partnership with SAP. They're the dominant ERP provider among enterprise customers. And this is to strategically fill the white space that literally exists right past the ERP system. So, we'll be making additional announcements with them in the coming days, but effectively, we're excited about that collaboration and being able to penetrate the market further together with them. And just speaking about impact, it's really clear as day. I mean, beyond just institutionalized knowledge and making sure that everyone's, marching to the same beat, by implementing this type of agile solution, clients are getting to market 60 days earlier. This is critical when there's real time value to goods, right? In fashion, you've got, 4 seasons, there's decline in value every day and every week throughout that season. And so the faster you can gain visibility and get to market to sell off inventory that's decreasing in value minute by minute, is essential. So clients have really done that successfully. The second is as we connect the dots through the entire process, and that would look to collaboration among, sourcing, production, planning, sales, finance, and removing friction such as you're pulling data from your system. Does it take you 2 weeks to scrub that data so that you can then take it to market? We automate that. And with that, we've been able to decrease, operating expenses by up to 85%. And then on the margin improvement side, we draw that baseline based on the historicals, and very, usually see double-digit margin improvement across our customers. This could be representative in, showing the right goods to the right buyers, taking goods to market in a more frequent cadence as opposed to letting it build. And in some cases, customers do increase the scope of who they engage with, because what we offer actually, makes this quick and easy for them. Which is critical. The key here is that all of this goes straight to the bottom line. And this is a massive game changer as it relates to, just optimizing, working capital. And just to provide a couple examples, we're unfortunately have to remain confidential on who these customers are. This is one of Recovery Enhancement, which is a $6 billion lifestyle brand. They were able to achieve higher margin recovery across all their categories, simply because they introduced product with rich content, right? Just take a step back. As consumers, we look at e-commerce, we live it every day. We see all the rich, visuals, all the relevant data. In this part of the product lifecycle, historically, there were almost never images provided. If they were in like a folder alongside the spreadsheet. And then even with the spreadsheet, there was very basic data that was included, in there. And so just being able to really understand, instead of looking at alphanumeric code in a spreadsheet, what precisely you're looking at and allowing you to really quantify the value, that rich content allowed them to unlock value, immediately there. The second example here is one of increased operational efficiency. This was at a multinational apparel company. They actually saw an 88% reduction in transaction time due to our ability to automate their data upload, automate the negotiation, and really streamline that process, and then streamline the order entry and automate that as well. So really, as we look at the benefit and the impact that we provide, it's really about reconfiguring how they think about this part of the business. It's no longer an afterthought. This is critical, and with that, efficiency is front and center, especially when everyone's working remotely. margin improvement. There's no reason to leave money on the table. And intelligence, which is kind of the last element of impact, represents where historically nothing was captured, both in terms of the go-to-market and all the different elements of data surrounding that, as well as when you go to market, where's the best sell-through? Why show inventory to someone who's just not interested? Or, the example I always like to give: why show outerwear to someone who's a swimwear buyer? Right? That's never going to go over well. And so this is an impact that we provide to market. It's been quite well received, and as I said, we're still the only company doing this in the market. So, appreciate the time to present. Feel free to reach out to me with any further questions, but would love to jump into Q&A and answer any questions that you have.
Hey, Ronen, thank you very much. So maybe a question about like the best categories for the Inturn solution. There were a couple categories on the case study slide. I saw home and I think baby and apparel. Where do you think this is a best fit, or is the answer that it's a best fit for all categories?
It's really a best fit for all categories. There's no such solution across any category. We started in fashion for a few reasons. One is you've got this 4 seasons, so you've got decline in value inherent in just the way that seasons are structured. Also, our earliest investors came from that world, but also, and this is the third point, is the platform. We wanted to make sure that we're able to support variances related to any types of product. So we started in fashion, built up a nice roster of customers there. Last year, over a period of a couple of weeks, we started getting inbounds from, top 10 CPG companies. And, we reacted to that. The reason why we started seeing that level of inbound is with the supply chain agility that they've introduced to market, some of the retailers, such as grocers, as an example, started carrying less replenishment inventory. So the onus was on the CPG companies to now, produce enough so that, they have enough to replenish without actually knowing where or when that's going to come from. And so actually pre-COVID, that's introduced, for some companies, 50% growth of slow moving and obsolete year over year. With COVID-19, everything's on the table. I mean, what used to work is no longer, and all the uncertainty and volatility in play requires a solution to, take a more agile approach. We typically would work with finished products, and what's interesting, especially through the lens of sustainability, a lot of companies have started looking at raw materials, components. I mean, we're talking to one company in the electronic space who, has about $1 billion a year of slow moving and obsolete, primarily in components, just to highlight that. So, and then SAP through conversations, has asked us to look at chemicals, to look at other verticals as well. So this is an issue that exists across all companies who carry inventory, in that there's always a plan, and at a certain point, reality sets. And when that reality sets, what do you do with that inventory in a way to quickly and easily monetize it in the right way, and at the same time ensure channel protection? Right? It's a fine balance between.
Got it. And just so I understand that last point, or point in that last point. Do you also work with like work in progress and other kind of like inputs into finished goods? You can find an output for the components that make up, let's say, a washing machine, as an example.
Yeah, so I mean, some components are proprietary, obviously, to the companies, and in that case, there may be a recycling opportunity or something like that, right? We cover the full scope of disposition, including even donations. Some companies use our platform to support, that little, that final phase, before destruction. But otherwise, yes, I mean, there's components, think of electronics, think of, I don't know, computers. There are, components within, each and every computer, that can be shared and utilized by many different companies. In fashion, think of like fabric or other components. That's become front and center because the fabric expires as well, right? The elastic nature of certain fabrics, and so this is it's an interesting time for us. We've been pretty slammed through the start of from the start of this pandemic, and it started to really escalate because a lot of companies who historically were kind of like, yeah, we've got this figured out, have realized that they actually don't. and now's the time to start.
Right. And maybe last question, and then we could follow up in the backstage, which is to the left there. It's where it says sessions. Do you have an offer? Do you offer rather an API to plug into existing systems, or?
Yeah, we do. So we've got 3 modes of connectivity. One is full like API connectivity, push and pull of data, so it makes it real time. The second is an asynchronous connection where customer can drop their available to sell file in a secure FTP location. We fetch it from there, and then we deposit the order entry files back in there. They fetch it from there. And then, the quickest way to get to market, and being that this inventory is typically not as mission critical as what we'd find in e-commerce, right? And therefore, it's typically set off to the side. We've developed a data normalization engine, which allows us to take a raw data file, understand the data structure across multiple sources, bring it together, and match it with images. And so it's as simple as attaching a file or files like you would to an email. And then from there, everything comes to life on the platform. Our platform serves as that system of record, and then we allow that order expert forward.
Awesome, Ronen. Well, thank you very much for introducing us to Inturn. If there are additional questions, if you look over to sessions, it's one of the icons on the left. One of my colleagues can facilitate any additional Q&A, and then if there are interested parties amongst all our attendees, we'll offer the opportunity to connect with Ronen and Inturn at the end of the conference. And so look for that opportunity. And Ronen, thank you very much.
Thank you. Hope everyone's well.
Have a nice day.